I'm sorry that I'm not able to speak Georgian, but so I will be speaking English, and I will not talk for too much because I had already yesterday the opportunity to talk a lot, maybe too much. So coming to your question, maybe Ukraine is suffering from the sort of fullest expression, what one could call hybrid war, because the term is used in different ways. Sometimes it is criticized. The term hybrid war is criticized as inappropriate because every war is, of course, a hybrid war. And some people use hybrid war only for non-military war. And Ukraine is suffering from real war and also from this from hybrid war, in the sense that it is attacked by non-military means as well. Something that I think is often not sufficiently appreciated in the West, that apart from the things that are happening in the Donbass or now also in the Azov Sea, there is unfortunately also a lot of other things happening that are part of this concerted action to attack and eventually even bring down the Ukrainian state. So the maybe the two topics I want to focus here, because a lot could be said about very various actions that Russia is undertaking with regard to Ukraine, is maybe something that is not so often well understood in the West. That what I would call an additional D to the 4 Ds that we know already: distort, dismay, distract, disinform. That has these 4 Ds you may have heard about. This formula brought up, I think, by Ben Nimmo as a sort of description of the Russian propaganda campaign. What is often, I think, less seen is another D, if you want to call it this way: disbalance. So the problem that I often see in Germany is that not only that there's wrong information or distorted information about Ukraine, but maybe a deeper problem actually is that a part of the information that is coming from Russia or through pro-Russian channels is, of course, true. Bad information about Ukraine. And there is right-wing extremism, for instance, in Ukraine. There are attacks on minorities in Ukraine. And just to take one topic that I know particularly well, there are also many other problems. And what the problem that Ukrainians then often encounter when they come to Germany is that Germans would know a lot of details about all of these problems that Ukraine really has, and that are not actually made up and may not even be distorted, may not even be somehow biased. And then people get all this information, which is true, but they wouldn't have other information about Ukraine, or not sufficient information to actually contextualize the problems that Ukraine has. So people would know a lot, for instance, about the Azov regiment, which is a military unit now of the National Guard of the Ministry of Interior of Ukraine, which used to be an irregular armed unit and then was integrated into the troops of the Ministry of Interior. And this Azov movement has then created a party which is called National Corps, and people would know all sorts of details about this National Corps and the leader Andrei Beletsky, and about the history of the movement out of which the Azov regiment came. But what they wouldn't know, or they wouldn't sort of able to process in a proper way, I would say, is that this National Corps, this party that came out of this, has currently electoral support in opinion polls of 0.5%. Yeah? So people in Germany, they wouldn't know anything about a number of German parties that have electoral support of 0.5%, but they would know a lot about this party, and you know, they would get that from through various channels, and much of it would be true actually. And this is really a problematic party, yeah. But they wouldn't know about any other Ukrainian parties that are in parliament, that have large electoral support, that are up in the opinion polls, and they would have then this disbalanced information. And this disbalance is a very sort of sophisticated way of, I would say, a hybrid war against Ukraine and propaganda war. The other aspect I want to briefly mention is I think the economic strategy that Russia is also applying here, that if Russia can do what it wants to do, I think it may indeed at the end happen that Ukraine will collapse. If, for instance, the Azov Sea is blocked permanently, the ports of Mariupol and Berdyansk, through which 5% of the Ukrainian foreign trade goes, become dysfunctional, if they have not enough income actually to sustain themselves as economic enterprises. This will be a huge problem. And at the same time, Nord Stream 2 is built, Turk Stream is built, so the income from the current transfer of Siberian gas to the European Union is going down. And then you have all these economic factors that come together, and then you don't need, in a way, military means anymore to crush Ukraine. So this is a very dangerous development, and Ukraine is already in a very complicated economic situation. And it's getting already a lot of money from the IMF, from other donor organizations, and it's clear that this cannot go on forever. Russia may be just playing here on time by using these non-military means to eventually bring down the Ukrainian state. So maybe I'll leave it at that, and later respond to further comments and questions.